6D10.2 Severe personality disorder. All general diagnostic requirements for personality disorder are met. 1. There are severe disturbances in multiple areas of functioning of the self. For example, sense of self may be so unstable that individuals report not having a sense of who they are, or so rigid that they refuse to participate in any but an extremely narrow range of situations. Self-view may be characterized by self-contempt or be grandiose or highly eccentric. Problems in interpersonal functioning seriously affect virtually all relationships, and the ability and willingness to perform expected social and occupational roles is severely compromised or absent. 3. Specific manifestations of personality disturbance are severe and affect most, if not all, areas of personality functioning. Severe personality disorder is often associated with harm to self or others. Severe personality disorder is associated with severe impairment in all or nearly all areas of life, including personal, family, social, educational, occupational, and other important areas of functioning. Examples of specific personality disturbances in severe personality disorder. The individual's self-view is very unrealistic and typically is highly unstable or contradictory. The individual has serious difficulty with regulation of self-esteem, emotional experience and expression, and impulses, as well as other aspects of behavior, for example, perseveration, indecision. The individual is largely unable to set and pursue realistic goals. The individual's interpersonal relationships, if any, lack mutuality, are shallow, extremely one-sided, unstable, or highly conflictual, often to the point of violence. Family relationships are absent, despite having living relatives, or marred by significant conflict. The individual has extreme difficulty acknowledging difficult or unwanted emotions, for example, does not recognize or acknowledge experiencing anger, sadness, or other emotions. The individual is unwilling or unable to sustain regular work due to lack of interest or effort, poor performance, for example, failure to complete assignments or perform expected roles, unreliability, interpersonal difficulties, or inappropriate behavior, for example, flightiness of temper, insubordination. Under stress, there are extreme distortions in the individual's situational and interpersonal appraisals. There are often dissociative states or psychotic-like beliefs or perceptions, for example, extreme paranoid reactions. Personality trait qualifiers. Trait domain specifiers may be applied to personality disorders or personality difficulty to describe the characteristics of the individual's personality that are most prominent, and that contribute to personality disturbance. Trait domains are continuous with normal personality characteristics in individuals who do not have personality disorder or personality difficulty. Trait domains are not diagnostic categories, but rather represent a set of dimensions that correspond to the underlying structure of personality. As many trait domain specifiers may be applied as necessary to describe personality functioning. Individuals with more severe personality disturbance tend to have a greater number of prominent trait domains. However, a person may have a severe personality disorder and manifest only one prominent trait domain, for example, detachment. Trait domain specifiers that may be recorded include the following: 6D11.0 Negative affectivity, 6D11.1 Detachment, 6D11.2 Dissociality, 6D11.3 Disinhibition, 6D11.4 Anincastia, 6D11.5 Borderline pattern. 6D11.0 Negative affectivity in personality disorder or personality difficulty. Diagnostic requirements. The core feature of the negative affectivity trait domain, sometimes referred to as neuroticism, is the tendency to experience a broad range of negative emotions. Common manifestations of negative affectivity, not all of which may be present in a given individual at a given time, include the following. 1. Experiencing a broad range of negative emotions with a frequency and intensity out of proportion to the situation. 2. Emotional lability and poor emotion regulation. 3. Negativistic attitudes. 4. Low self-esteem and self-confidence. 5. Mistrustfulness. Experiencing a broad range of negative emotions with a frequency and intensity out of proportion to the situation. Common negative emotions include but are not limited to anxiety, worry, depression, vulnerability, fear, anger, hostility, guilt, and shame. The particular negative emotions that are most characteristic of any particular person vary across individuals and are largely dependent on the presence or degree of other trait domains. For example, individuals high on dissociality are more likely to experience externalizing negative emotions, for example, anger, hostility, contempt, whereas those high on detachment are more likely to experience internalizing negative emotions, for example, anxiety, depression, pessimism, guilt. Emotional lability and poor emotion regulation. Individuals high on negative affectivity are overreactive to both their own negative cognitions and to external events. They can become overwrought through their own thought processes, such as by ruminating over their shortcomings or past mistakes, over real or perceived threats, slights or insults, or over potential future problems. They are overreactive to external threats or criticism, problems, and setbacks. They have low frustration tolerance and easily become visibly upset over even minor issues. They often experience and display multiple emotions simultaneously or vacillate among a range of emotions in a short period of time. Once upset, they have difficulty regaining their composure and must rely on others or on leaving the situation to calm down. Negativistic attitudes. Individuals high on negative affectivity typically reject others' suggestions or advice, arguing that enacting others' ideas would be too complicated or difficult, or that the suggested actions would not lead to the desired outcomes or have a high likelihood of negative consequences. The manner of rejection is largely dependent on the individual's other traits. For example, those high on detachment are most likely to blame themselves for the likely difficulties or poor outcomes, whereas those high on dissociality are most likely to blame others for offering such bad ideas. Low self-esteem and self-confidence. Individuals high on negative affectivity may exhibit low self-esteem and self-confidence in several different ways. These include avoidance of situations and activities that either are judged to be too difficult, for example, intellectually, physically, socially, interpersonally, emotionally, etc., even despite evidence to the contrary. Dependency, which may be manifested in frequent reliance on others for advice, direction, and other kinds of help, envy of others' abilities and indicators of success. And, in more severe cases of low self-esteem, believing themselves to be useless, to have lived a worthless life, to be incapable of accomplishing anything of value, which may be associated with suicidal ideation or behaviors. Mistrustfulness. Interpersonally, this is typically manifested as suspicion that others have ill intent, and that neutral or even benign remarks and positive behaviors are hidden threats, slights or insults. Individuals high on negative affectivity tend to hold grudges and be unforgiving even over long time periods. In non-interpersonal situations, this mistrustfulness typically takes the form of bitterness and cynicism, for example, the belief that the system is rigged. 6D11.1 Detachment in personality disorder or personality difficulty. Diagnostic requirements. The core feature of the detachment trait domain is the tendency to maintain interpersonal distance, social detachment, and emotional distance, emotional detachment. Common manifestations of detachment, not all of which may be present in a given individual at a given time, include the following: 1. Social detachment. 2. Emotional detachment. Social detachment. Social detachment is characterized by avoidance of social interactions, lack of friendships, and avoidance of intimacy. Individuals high on detachment do not enjoy social interactions and avoid all kinds of social contact and social situations to the extent possible. They engage in little to no small talk even if initiated by others, for example, at store checkout counters, seek out employment that does not involve interactions with others, and even refuse promotions if these would entail more interaction with others. They have few to no friends or even casual acquaintances. Their interactions with family members tend to be minimal and superficial. They rarely, if ever, engage in any intimate relationships and are not particularly interested in sexual relations. Emotional detachment. Emotional detachment is characterized by reserve, aloofness, and limited emotional expression and experience. Individuals high on detachment keep to themselves to the extent possible, even in obligatory social situations. They are typically aloof and respond to direct attempts at social engagement only briefly and in ways that discourage further conversation. Emotional detachment also encompasses emotional inexpressiveness, both verbally and non-verbally. Individuals high on detachment do not talk about their feelings, and it is difficult to discern what they might be feeling from their behaviors. In extreme cases, there is a lack of emotional experience itself, and they are non-reactive to either negative or positive events, with a limited capacity for enjoyment. Thanks for watching.